2023, the scope and harm of the illicit drug markets are continuing to grow across the world. With the increasing availability of cocaine, the sale of drugs on social media, and the persistent spread of synthetic drugs, which are relatively inexpensive, simple to make, and, in the case of fentanyl, lethal in even small dosages. Fentanyl was first developed in 1959 and is a narcotic analgesic with potency of at least 30 to 50 times more than heroin. The World Drug Report 2023 has highlighted that in 2021, over 80,000 people died from opioid overdoses in the United States, out of which 70,000 were attributed to pharmaceutical opioids, mostly fentanyl. Similar to other commonly used opioid analgesics, fentanyl produces effects such as relaxation, euphoria, pain relief, sedation, confusion, drowsiness, dizziness, nausea, vomiting, urinary retention, pupillary constriction, and respiratory depression, amongst others. The drug can be injected, snorted, sniffed, smoked, taken orally by pill or tablet, and spiked onto blotter paper. Fentanyl patches are usually abused by removing its gel contents, which is used for injecting or ingesting. The patches can also be frozen, cut into pieces, and placed under the tongue or in the cheek cavity. In several countries, fentanyl is clandestinely with heroin and other substances. It has been identified in counterfeited pills and mimicking pharmaceutical drugs. Fentanyl and its derivatives are used as anesthetics and analgesics and are subject to international control. Fentanyl is a well-controlled drug in Mauritius and is listed in the second schedule of the Dangerous Drugs Act. I wish to highlight that according to the Ministry of Health and Wellness, pharmaceutical fentanyl is prescribed by doctors for anesthesia purposes to treat severe pain, especially after surgery and for advanced stage of cancer. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am informed by the Commissioner of Police that as at 17th November 2023, no case of consumption or possession of fentanyl in violation of the Dangerous Drugs Act has been reported or detected in Mauritius. I am also informed that as 16th of November 2023, the drugs unit of the Forensic Science Laboratory has not received, tested, or confirmed the presence of fentanyl in any drug case submitted by the Mauritius Police Force or Customs Anti-Narcotic Unit. Although cases related to the illegal consumption of fentanyl have not been reported in Mauritius, a plethora of measures have been put in place to prevent the illegal entry of this deadly substance in the territory of Mauritius. Mr. Speaker, sir, on multiple occasions, I have conveyed the unflinching determination of my government to fight the drug scourge, and to that purpose, we have been deploying every resource at our disposal to pursue this battle relentlessly and effectively so that the population and future generations live in a better and safer environment. Thank you.
I didn't have the opportunity to put the question, Mr. Speaker. Anyway, I thank the Prime Minister for the answer. May I ask the Honourable Prime Minister whether he is aware that in Reunion Island there were 3 cases of overdose of fentanyl a few months back, and whether the Mauritian authorities have been liaising with the Reunion people, Reunion authorities, to see whether there is import of fentanyl from Reunion Island to Mauritius.
Well, your information is not correct as at date, because they are still examining this sample, to find out whether there was any traces of fentanyl. And in the meantime, we have taken, the Office of the Commissioner of Police has been in touch with their counterpart in Réunion, and the Réunion authorities have confirmed that so far, I'm talking up till maybe till yesterday, no cases of fentanyl have been detected on the island.
Another question, Mr. Speaker, sir? Yeah. As regards to the rape parties which have been held in Mauritius, and arrests and seizures which have happened recently, may I ask the Honourable Prime Minister whether any traces of fentanyl have been found in the drugs which have been seized during those rape parties?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Member must be realistic. I know, I have been informed that when a search was carried out at a recent rape party, some people have been arrested, some suspected drugs have been seized, but we need to send them to the FSL for them to analyze and then to give a report so that we will know what kind of drug it is. This cannot be done in a day or two. So I cannot say what kind of drug, if ever, has been seized. It will only, after analysis from the FSL, that we will be able to say so.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Sir. The Undersecretary of State from the United States, Mr. Bradley, came here and he made a statement saying that 1 kilo of fentanyl can kill 500,000 people. We can understand the power of this drug. May I ask the Honourable Prime Minister, was he aware that this drug is already on the market in select clienteles?
Well, again, Mr. Speaker, I have replied to say that so far we have not had any reported cases or consumption in Mauritius. Now, if the Honourable Member has evidence, we can't just come and say anything like that before, even in this House or anywhere else. If you have evidence, yes, provide me with the evidence. I will ask the police to inquire and we will do the needful.
Mr. Speaker, sir, we know how powerful the mafia is. And we know that social workers who are working with drug addicts are aware that these traces of fentanyl have been found in Mauritius. So that is why I'm asking this question, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Do you have evidence? This is the issue. It is an issue of evidence. The Prime Minister?
Well, if the social worker has evidence, you can provide it to the police, provide it to us. So far, I have not seen any case which has been reported. I don't need to repeat again, Mr. Speaker.
I judge this question has been sufficiently canvassed. We move to the next question. Honorable Abbas Mahmoud.
Mr. Speaker, sir, as the House is aware, following the 2019 general election, the opposition entered 12 election petitions, 1 application for judicial review, and 1 application for constitutional relief before the Supreme Court contesting the results of the election. Mr. Speaker, sir, we know that, as at date, 7 petitions out of the 12 concerning the following constituencies have been withdrawn by the petitioners themselves. Number 1, Navarre against Chakori and others. Number 8, Kadaran against Jugnut and others. Number 9, Bechu against Modu and others. Number 10, Ramgulam against Sadoyal and others. Number 13, Bandhu against Jagatpal and others. Number 15, Said Hossain against Babli and others. Number 19, Siwuchan against Kolandavelu and others. We are also aware that 4 petitions concerning the following constituencies have been heard and dismissed by the court with costs. Number 14, Jabu against Ganu and others. Number 8, Dayal and Jagnat and others. I have also not yet received costs in this case. Number 16, Suredu against Itu and others. Number 17, Juval against Electoral Commissioner and others. Mr. Speaker, sir, in one petition case concerning constituency number 19, namely Adebiro against Kolenda Velu, following a statement of the Electoral Commissioner to the effect that he had no objection that a recount be granted, and there being also no objection from the Electoral Supervisory Commission, the Supreme Court made an order on 21st January 2022 for a recount. The exercise for the recount was carried out on 1st of February 2022, and the initial election results were maintained. In addition, in regard to the judicial review case of Sudarshan Bade versus the ESC and ANO, as the House is aware, the applicant's request for leave had been turned down by the Supreme Court on 20th of October 2020, while in the constitutional relief case of Vishwadev Sanasi versus the State of Mauritius and ANO, judgment is reserved. Mr. Speaker, sir, in their petitions and applications, the opposition made numerous unfounded, unsubstantiated, frivolous, and even ridiculous allegations and accusations against inter alia, the return candidates, the Electoral Supervisory Commission, the Office of the Electoral Commissioner, the returning officers, and other election staff, and the Mauritius Broadcasting Corporation. They also staged public demonstrations to vent out their frustrations and discredit our electoral management bodies. It is essential to note that, despite the serious allegations made in public, calling into question the integrity of the election process as a whole, in 8 of the petitions, the petitioners were only praying for a recount of votes. Mr. Speaker, sir, if the opposition was in presence of precise information to the effect that substantial electoral fraud had occurred, as they had been claiming, the only logical prayer they should have sought from the Supreme Court would have been for an order to declare the elections null and void. What they chose to do was to ask for a mere recount. In fact, all the arguments of the opposition hinged on conjecture or speculation, and they had no evidence to prove such serious allegations. What we saw was the opposition making a desperate attempt to make the transition from the political realm, where facts need not be proved, into the judicial realm, where evidence is required to substantiate any arguments. And this was clearly done with only one objective: to keep being relevant until the next general elections. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is important for me to highlight here the fact that in 9 constituencies in Mauritius, I emphasize 9 constituencies, an opposition candidate was elected with the highest number of votes. This in itself renders many of their arguments untenable, some of which were really ridiculous. For example, in his petition, Dr. Navin Chandra Ramgulam alleged, amongst others, that he had first-hand information that ballot papers had been printed outside the government printing office at Quad Printing in Coromandel, and that, I quote, "This fact cast a cloud of corruption and deviousness on the election process, as there was a real likelihood that stuffing would have occurred nationwide, including constituency number 10, end of quote. Mr. Speaker, sir, we all know that when the time came for Dr. Ramgulam to substantiate these serious allegations in court, he never came to proof on his arguments he made in his petition. he chose to withdraw his petition, presenting lame excuses to explain his decision. He in fact issued a communiqué on the 6th of October 2022, wherein he stated that finally the Privy Council would, and I quote, statuer sur quasiment les mêmes points que nous allions aborder lors des débats concernant la pétition au numéro 10. De ce fait, la décision du Privy Council dans l'affaire Dayal contre Jugnut est d'une importance capitale, car c'est elle qui déterminera si nous allions ou non aux élections avant 2024. Fin de citation. In reality, Mr. Speaker, sir, we all know that the Dayal appeal to the Privy Council bore absolutely no similarities with the petition entered by Dr. Nabin Ramgoolam. The issues raised were totally different, except for the averments regarding the MDC. However, as we equally know, this ground regarding the MDC was even abandoned before the Privy Council. Mr. Speaker, sir, Dr. Ramgoolam made several other frivolous accusations, such as improperly drawn electoral registers, alleged opacity surrounding use of computer rooms, alleged refusal of access to labor agents on lorries transporting ballot papers, labor agents in constituency number 10 not being informed about the number of ballot papers delivered to polling stations in that constituency. Mr. Speaker, sir, as the House is aware, all these arguments were rejected by the Supreme Court. In fact, in the interlocutory judgment of 28th of July 2021, on the issue regarding the number of ballot papers distributed in constituency number 10, the court observed, and I quote, "The impugned parts in paragraph 29 of the petitioner's reply is an attempt at shifting the blame on respondent number 6, that is the returning officer, when in fact it was not only a right that the petitioner enjoyed, but also his responsibility to scrutinize the data which was readily available and accessible in the office of the senior presiding officer, had he taken the trouble to do so." End of quote. Mr. Speaker, sir, apart from their wild and frivolous accusations made in their election petition, the opposition also made vile and shocking attacks against the judiciary. In fact, on Radio Plus on Friday, 10th of March 2023, in a reply to a question put to Dr. Nabin Chandra Ramgoolam by the host as to the reason why he had opted to withdraw his election petition, Dr. Ramgoolam stated, and I quote, "Dans mon cas, je peux dire ou qui faire. Nous nous trouvons qui n'arrivait dans la cour. Dans les autres cas, tout ban point qui peut lever peut rejeter. Nous pensons ban point valide, hein, peut rejeter. Bon, nous pouvons continuer." End of this quote. And he went on to add, and I quote, "Deuxièmement, je besoin dire où, je hésité pour dire où ça. Parce qu'il ne m'a pas dit avant. Moi, il y a une information, ziz, pécose, et ministre. End of quote. It's a shame on them to attack the judiciary. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is apposite for me to mention here a few pertinent, very pertinent observations and findings of the court in the petition cases. For example, in the case of Jabu against Ganu, regarding the use of the computer room, the Supreme Court held in no uncertain terms that, I quote, "The petitioner cannot for that purpose rely on bare hypothesis that the computer room could have led to irregularities or mistakes in the counting process to compel the court to embark into a roving inquiry. It is also clear from the evidence on record that the computer room was set up by the respondent number 4 to disseminate information to the public on the election results. Nothing more, nothing less." End of quote. Mr. Speaker, sir, In the case of Duval against Electoral Commissioner and others, petitioner Mr. Adrien Duval had averred that around half of all the ballot papers allegedly counted in a counting room were of suspicious nature. The Supreme Court found that not an iota of evidence had been adduced in support of this specific averment. The court also held that the allegations made by the petitioner had remained unsubstantiated. Upon analysis of the evidence, the Supreme Court came to the conclusion that the petitioner had failed to prove by way of cogent evidence any of the allegations of irregularities or mistakes on the part of respondent number 3, that is the returning officer. The Supreme Court accordingly set aside the petition with cost. Mr. Speaker, sir, there were also several instances where numerous paragraphs in the petitions had to be struck out as ordered by the Supreme Court. For example, in the case of Ganu against Jabu, the court decided, and I quote, "The averments in those paragraphs, namely paragraphs 11 to 25, are unnecessary and introduce irrelevant matters as to the recount of the actual ballot cast and would unduly protract the pleadings as well as the hearing of the election petition. Not striking out those paragraphs would lead to useless expenses and would prejudice the trial." Unquote. Likewise, in the case of Mudu against Bechu, in regard to the allegation of irregular compilation of the register of electors, the court held that, and I quote, "The averments set out at paragraphs 11 to 19 are unnecessary in the sense that they are so irrelevant that to allow them to stand would involve useless expense and are wholly apart from the real issues to be determined. We order that paragraphs 11 to 19 to be struck out," end of quote. I must add that similar observations had been made by the court in the matter of Kolenda Velu against Adebiro. Mr. Speaker, sir, as the House is aware, in his election petition, Mr. Dayal had asked that the election of the free return candidates of constituency number 8 be declared null and void on grounds of bribery, treating, and undue influence. The observations and conclusions of the Supreme Court in this particular case are very telling about the invalidity of their accusations and arguments. In regard to the accusation of bribery, in relation to the PRB report, the court observed that, and I quote, "The petitioner was confronted with the fact that the electoral manifestos of both alliances contain similar proposals in relation to the PRB report. He either did not answer or replied that two wrongs do not make one right, or replied that the proposals of l'Alliance Nationale were part of its electoral manifesto, whereas the proposals of l'Alliance Mauricienne constituted an electoral bribe. We must say, that the Privy Council says that, we must say that we were not impressed at all by the petitioner's outstanding answers and double standards. We accordingly find that the alleged acts of bribery with regard to the PRB report proposals have not been proved against the respondents." End of quote. Similarly, in regard to the allegations of treating and undue influence, the Supreme Court found that there was no merit in the petitioner's allegations. As the House is aware, all the findings and conclusions of the Supreme Court in this case were endorsed by the Privy Council on appeal. Mr. Speaker, sir, in their historical campaign after their electoral defeat, the then Platform de l'Espoir, comprising inter alia the MMM and the PMSD, went to the extent of asking the Electoral Commissioner to resign from his post. The leader of the MMM said, and I quote, "La confiance du public dans la commission électorale a été ébranlée. Les élections de 2019 ne se sont pas déroulées comme il le fallait." End of quote. And Honorable Boulel, speaking on behalf of the Labour Party, stated, I quote, "Ce n'est pas de gaieté de cœur que nous affirmons que le commissaire électoral et le président de l'ISI doivent démissionner. The guys must go. Pour la santé de la démocratie et du processus électoral, il est important qu'ils partent. Fin de citation. Mr. Speaker, sir, in their frenzy, the Labour Party did not spare even the Privy Council. In fact, after the dismissal of the appeal of Mr. Suren Dayal by the Privy Council, a senior counsel, who is also one of the legal advisors of Dr. Navin Chandra Ramgulam, and also his former election agent, stated during a radio program on Radio Plus on Monday, 16th of October 2023, I quote, oui, premièrement sur la forme, donc Lady Soukar, pas Soukar, hein, Soukar, et c'est une juge qui vient d'être nommée au conseil privé. Ce premier cas, c'était l'affaire Dayal contre Jagnat. Et voilà donc qui, lui-même les plus géniaux comme disent, lui-même les rendent le jugement. Ça, c'est le premier constat qu'il nous fait. Deuxième constat qu'il nous fait, un jugement extrêmement court, à moins qu'il nous ait une autre version qui nous pas connaît, à moins que c'est une version condensée, qui parfois se rend jugement là comme ça. Mais si c'est bien le jugement de mémoire, je ne pas trouver un jugement aussi court que ça. Surtout pour une question pareille. Et troisièmement, encore plus surprenant, pas fin cite aucun précédent, aucun cas. Fin cite seulement un extrait de la loi, section 64, Representation of People Act. Voilà, ça c'est un volet, un quote from this famous senior counsel, of whom you know very well. Yes. Mr. Speaker, sir, following the Privy Council judgment, the leader of the Labour Party made a public statement during which he said, and I quote, tout le monde reconnaît que les élections de 2019 n'étaient ni free ni fair. Le jugement ne veut nullement dire que les élections n'ont pas été truquées. End of quote. Furthermore, during a press conference of the Labour MMM-PMSD Alliance, held on 22nd of October 2023, that is just after the Privy Council judgment, Dr. Ramgulam, again, expressing his dissatisfaction against the judgment, stated, and I quote, le Privy Council s'est basé sur le jugement de la Cour suprême de Maurice et a fait une interprétation étroite de la section 64 de la Representation of People Act. C'est tout. Fin de citation. Mr. Speaker, sir, this is in total contradiction of his own statement, which he made previously at the MKS Hall at Caroline Belair on Friday, 20th of December 2019, where he expressed his trust and confidence in the Privy Council, saying, I quote, au moins, vous connaissez où est sa justice qui vous peut gagner avec Anglais là. Anglais est capable de faire ce défaut, mais il y a une affaire qui me connaît avec Anglais. Navin Chandra, who knows avec Anglais là. Quand bizarre faire la justice, il peut faire la justice. Ça, une autre qualité, race ça. End of quote. Mr. Speaker, sir, such contradiction betrays their bad faith and is typical of a mauvais perdant. Mr. Speaker, sir, the leader of the opposition also made a statement in the wake of the Privy Council judgment, saying that, I quote, cela ne veut pas dire que selon mes convictions personnelles, qu'il n'y a pas eu d'abus et de vices de procédure. Il faut allouer de vrais pouvoirs à l'Electoral Supervisory Commission et revoir le rôle de la MBC, tout comme les dépenses électorales. Nous n'avons pas besoin du Privy Council pour dire si c'est bon ou mauvais. Unquote. Mr. Speaker, sir, as I stated in my reply to Parliamentary Question B 1316 on Tuesday, 31st of October 2023, the outcry and protests of this disgruntled opposition following their defeat in the 2019 general election, especially their wild allegations and accusations over the supposed election rigging and their irresponsible public remarks and recriminations have indeed tarnished the image and reputation of the Electoral Supervisory Commission and the Office of the Electoral Commissioner, two institutions that are so vital for our democracy. The ESC and the Office of the Electoral Commissioner have, over the years, built a robust reputation by delivering credible and transparent elections, where the election results have always been accepted by all stakeholders. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is a matter of deep regret that in spite of the dismissal of their election petitions, or their voluntary withdrawal by the petitioners themselves, and in spite of the comments and observations made by the Supreme Court and the highest court of appeal, that is the Privy Council in Dayal's case, the opposition have continued their delirious campaign about their so-called election rigging. Mr. Speaker, sir, in my reply to PQB 1316, I had underlined the fact that we, on this side of the House, we have never had any doubt on the integrity and independence of these two institutions and their capacity to deliver credible elections, a fact that is recognized and acknowledged both locally and internationally, as evidenced by the numerous occasions on which the Electoral Commissioner had been called upon by foreign states and entities to share his knowledge and expertise in electoral matters. As a matter of fact, the Electoral Commissioner has, on the 15th of November 2023, been conferred the Lifetime Achievement Award by the Lifetime Achievement Award by the International Center for Parliamentary Studies. The ICPS is a research institution of the United Nations Public Administration Network and also works in partnership with the United Nations Development Programme and the Association of European Election Officials. Headquartered in London, the ICPS promotes effective policy making and good governance through better interaction between parliaments, governments, and other stakeholders in society. The Lifetime Achievement Award is conferred upon people for their remarkable achievements, outstanding work, deep commitment, or great sacrifice in the fields of elections and democracy. Mr. Speaker, sir, the award was conferred upon Mr. Abdul Rahman after unanimous decision of the judges. During the 19th International Electoral Affairs Symposium, an international award ceremony hosted by the Portuguese National Electoral Commission in partnership with ICPS in Lisbon from 14th to 15th of November 2023. The award was presented to Mr. Abdul Rahman by Mr. Thomas Hicks, Commissioner of the United States Election Assistance Commission. Mr. Speaker, sir, this award is a recognition of the expertise and professionalism of Mr. Abdul Rahman and his remarkable career at the head of our electoral management body. Mr. Speaker, sir, sadly, it took lengthy court cases to expose the bad faith and the disingenuity of this opposition, which perpetuated a false narrative about election rigging. We, on our side, we are convinced that the dismissal of the electoral petitions or their voluntary withdrawal, and especially the observations, findings, and conclusions of both the Supreme Court and the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, and the recent international award conferred upon the Electoral Commissioner will reinforce the trust of the electorate in these two institutions. Mr. Speaker, sir, I have great confidence in the maturity and wisdom of the Mauritian population. They read, they reflect, and they think. I am confident that our mature and wise population, un électorat éclairé, will see that the opposition members have been crying wolf, with the result that some people may have been misled by their narrative of lies and deceit. Those very people who claim that the elections were unfair or conducted improperly never came to proof in court. In fact, Dr. Ramgoolam, who was the chief architect of that narrative, never even set foot in court to give evidence. He simply withdrew his election petition, giving reasons which were untenable to say the least. Now it is clear that all that was a litany of lies. Mr. Speaker, sir, I must also underline the fact that contesting an election results on such a scale, I must say unprecedented, and in such manner by this opposition, as I say, was unprecedented. The political history of Mauritius is replete with examples of leaders and other stalwarts from different political complexions who were endowed with the maturity and wisdom to be magnanimous in victory and gracious in defeat, and never blamed or discredited the electoral management bodies or election officials for their defeat, unlike this opposition, which, after their last electoral debacle, started a most irresponsible and sinister smear campaign, undermining the credibility and reputation of these institutions. And through this desperate face-saving exercise, they did a great disservice to the nation. Mr. Speaker, sir, in regard to the question about the measures which government will take to restore public trust and confidence in our electoral management bodies, the House will appreciate that in terms of Section 40, subsection 3, and Section 118, subsection 4 of the Constitution, these two institutions are meant to operate in a totally independent manner, free from any outside interference. We, as government, we have never interfered in the workings of these institutions. Government can do no more than provide them with all the resources they require to enable them to deliver on their constitutional mandate, and we will continue to do so. As I stated in my reply, the Office of the Electoral Commissioner has always adhered to best practices and standards, and all its operations are supervised by the Electoral Supervisory Commission. Moreover, all general elections are marked by the presence of regional and international election observers. We are confident that the Electoral Commissioner's Office and the Electoral Supervisory Commission are fully capable and committed to organize credible elections as they have done so far, and they will continue to uphold the integrity of the electoral process in Mauritius as they have always done. Mr. Speaker, sir, to answer the honorable member's question, therefore, I should say that it is not for me, nor for the Electoral Supervisory Commission or the Electoral Commissioner's Office to take steps to repair the damage caused to their reputation. But it is for this opposition, which has day and night since 2019 bashed those institutions and the hardworking and decent persons who man them, to do an introspection and ask themselves whether it was right for them to have acted so irresponsibly. It will be for this opposition to repair the damage done by tendering their unreserved apology to the chairperson and members of the Electoral Supervisory Commission, the Electoral Commissioner, and to the returning officers and all the election staff whose services were retained for the conduct of the 2019 general election. The opposition should now act more responsibly and put an end to their campaign of lies once and for all.
Honourable members, I will not allow any supplementary questions. I have to inform the House that PQ B 1552 B 1572 will be replied by the Honorable Prime Minister. Also, the table has been advised that the following PQs have been withdrawn. B 1515, B 1521, B 1524. Time is over.
Have you ever heard of someone answering for 30 minutes and no supplementary question? Is that fair?
Is that so?
I have a question for the Prime Minister.
Can you stay quiet? Let me reply to you. You know, that question of allowing question, this issue is within the jurisdiction of the Speaker, not the Leader of the Opposition. Not the Leader of the Opposition. Not the Leader of the Opposition. And this is my final ruling. And my ruling is final. I don't have to listen to you.
I have a question for the Prime Minister.
So, question to ministers. Honorable Wuchit.
B 1525.
This is the first time I see this.
Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir.
Order.
I'm informed by the District Council of Pamplemousse.
Order. Honorable Leader of the Opposition. Honorable Leader of the Opposition, try to be polite. May I continue with my work? Do you give me permission to continue with my work? You finished with your work. You will be moving out shortly.
Mr. Speaker, sir.
Can I continue?
If you want to. If you want to go also, you can go.
You're behaving like a child. This is a leader of the opposition behaving like a child. Honorable Wuchit, you already put your question. Replying.
Mr. Speaker, sir. I'm informed by the District Council of Pamplemousse that the football playground at NSDC Beach Tombeau had been invested into the District Council of Pamplemousse in October 2020. The football ground is being maintained by the council contractor who carries out mowing and associated work twice monthly. The turfing of the playground is on natural grass and regular maintenance is done. The enclosure wall and the fencing are also in good condition, but some maintenance maintenance is done. The enclosure wall and fencing are also in good condition. Moreover, the District Council of Pamplemousse has received a request from the Village Council of Beach Tombeau for the installation of lighting in order to enable playing of night matches and training. The estimated cost for the lighting work is estimated at 1.2 million rupees, and a request for fund has been made by the Council to enable the implementation of the proposed lighting project.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Can the Honourable Minister, Prime Minister, inform the House what measures are being taken to ensure that the cloakroom, lighting, and gradin, that is the sitting arrangement, can be enhanced at the said playground to accommodate spectators and players, and if it is so, give a time frame for the implementation of the overall infrastructure enhancement.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I've just mentioned about the lighting. The lighting is going to cost about 1.2 million rupees, and a request has been made on the 17th of November, 2023. Once the contract is awarded, the work could be completed in about 20 days, as far as lighting is concerned. As far as the other work is concerned, obviously, once we get a request from the Council of Pamplemousse, we'll look into it.
Is the Minister aware that there is waterlogging on the play field? And if it is so, can he inform the House if there is any comprehensive strategy addressing the drainage system or by ground leveling as a part of the playground's upgrade to prevent waterlogging? and maintain the quality of the field to meet professional standards and to ensure the safety of players playing over there?
The Speaker, sir, I've just replied, you have a maintenance contractor there who carries out mowing and associated work twice monthly. So if there's an issue, they should report it to the council and we'll look into it.
Next question.
B1526.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm informed by the Commissioner of Police that since 2019 to date, the number of reported cases of child sexual abuse stands at 1,546. As for the number of arrests effected, the number stands at 873, and there are about 23 convictions secured. However, it's worth noting that 939 cases are still under inquiry, 260 awaiting advice from the DPP, 59 awaiting prosecution, and 265 have been filed. With regard to Part B of the question, I wish to inform the House that a series of legislations have been promulgated together with the Children's Act 2020, namely the Children's Court Act, the Child Sex Offender Registers Act of 2020. These legislations provide for the police to monitor and track perpetrators who have been found guilty of committing sexual offences against children upon their release from jail. I'm further informed that the number of persons registered so far in the CSO register stands at 131. Mr. Speaker, sir, additionally, the Children's Act 2020 has provided for harsher penalties and sanctions to deter sexual abuse against children. Moreover, the Act provides for mandatory reporting by any person who performs professional or official duties with respect to children where there is belief that a child is being or is likely to be exposed to harm. I'm further informed that child watch committees at the level of the Child Development Unit have set up a system to detect and identify cases of abuse or potential victims. As part of the preventive aspect, information, education, and communication campaigns are conducted at national level in collaboration with the National Children's Council and Brigade pour la protection de la famille, targeting the population at large against child sexual abuse. A parental empowerment resource center has also been set up at the level of the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family Welfare, which focuses on various aspects of early childhood development, education, quality childcare, parenting, and family support. The program aims at educating parents on detection of early signs and symptoms of child sexual abuse and the course of action to be adopted in suspected cases of this nature.
Merci. On peut constater malheureusement qu'il y a énormément de cas, mais pas beaucoup de convictions, comme on dit. Pas plus loin que la semaine dernière, une fille de 11 ans de ma circonscription à La Valette a été agressée sexuellement en pleine rue, en plein jour, en se rendant chez elle. La ministre peut-elle nous dire de quelle manière elle est prise en charge, surtout qu'elle était retrouvée dans un état de choc, si elle bénéficie d'un suivi et si l'agresseur a été arrêté?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm aware that the Ministry of Gender Equality has a number of psychologists at their disposal, and they've got a special center to take care of victims of such abuse.
Next question. You have one?
La ministre de l'Égalité des genres et du bien-être de la famille avait mentionné lors de son intervention sur le Children's Bill en 2020 qu'elle envisageait introduire la castration chimique pour ceux qui commettront des abus sexuels envers les enfants. Est-ce que la ministre peut-elle nous dire si la ministre en question a l'intention d'aller de l'avant avec ses propos?
I would suggest that the Honourable Member sets the question to the substantive Minister.
Honourable Tour.
B1527.
Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me at the very outset to thank the Honourable Member for this question, which gives me the opportunity to further elaborate on the free pre-primary education scheme. Mr. Speaker, sir, early childhood care and education is the foundation of a child's lifelong learning journey. These years are critical to ensuring readiness for schooling and success in future learning. The provision of an inclusive, equitable and quality early childhood education remains at the heart of our action. The House will recall that the Honourable Prime Minister had on the occasion of the celebrations of the 55th anniversary of independence announced that the pre-primary education would become free for children aged 3 to 5 as from the beginning of the school year in January 2024. This is in line with the very principle of equity in education. This government has systematically reinforced an education system that opens the doors of progress and development for all citizens. Free education, Mr. Speaker, sir, is the way to make this a realizable goal. We came up with free tertiary education. It is only natural, therefore, that the pre-primary subsector be fee-free, considering that all the other education subsectors are already free. The loop had to be closed, Mr. Speaker, sir, and that is what this policy sets out to do. Mr. Speaker, sir, the present scheme covers 651 pre-primary schools. This is 84% of pre-primary schools, covering around 19,600 children. As at date, 416 registered private pre-primary schools have enthusiastically joined the scheme. This grant-in-aid scheme covers the operational costs as well as the staff costs of all these schools. The operational costs will be in respect of expenditure incurred on utilities, educational materials, pedagogical resources, as well as rental fees where applicable. Upfront payment of operational expenses will be made on a quarterly basis to the bank account of each school. The annual operational costs based on the school population will range from 240,000 to 100,000 yearly. All staff costs will be taken over by Early Childhood Care and Education Authority. This will include salaries of managers, assistant managers, teachers, assistant teachers, and school attendants. All qualified teachers will be remunerated as per the PRB recommendations, thus ensuring that they are all placed at the same footing as teachers in the public sector. The teacher-pupil ratio will be 1 teacher and 1 assistant teacher for every 15 children. You will agree, Mr. Speaker, sir, that a small class size will allow for more personalized attention and care and will also be conducive to catering to specific needs of the children, and that is going as per the UNESCO's recommendations and even beyond, Mr. Speaker, sir. Furthermore, this policy opens up opportunities for young aspirant teachers to join the profession, because we have created the posts of assistant teachers as well. In addition, each and every school will have a manager, and those having more than 101 children will also have an assistant manager. Each school having a population of up to 50 children will be entitled to 1 school attendant, and the grant-in-aid scheme also provides for 1 school attendant for every additional 50 children up to a maximum of 5. The salary of the school attendants will be according to the National Remuneration Board's recommendations. The emoluments of each of the staff member will go directly to the personal bank accounts. Government funding for this project will be to the tune of 1.5 billion rupees. That will include an amount of 30 million that will be earmarked yearly for non-recurrent projects to enhance the school environment for conducive learning. Funds will be released upon application and after necessary verifications, evaluation and endorsement of the project by the ECCA. Mr. Speaker, sir, the ECCA will be responsible for the implementation of the GIA scheme. and government has decided to invest in the early childhood education so as to ensure successful school journey for our children.
Parliamentary. Okay, honourable members, the table has been advised that PQA 19 has been transferred to the Honourable Minister of Health and Wellness. The following PQs have been withdrawn: B1535, B1548, B1561, B1564, B1566, B1569, B1573. Honourable members, I'll suspend the sitting for an hour and a half.